Hi, everyone. For my final project, I wanted to explore themes that kept showing up for me throughout this course. Those were nature, ancestry, initiation, and the role of ceremony in healing and transformation. Coming into this class, I was interested in shamanic traditions, but I didn't realize how much I would end up reflecting on my own life experiences, family history, and my relationship with nature. This project became less about learning something new and more about remembering things I already knew on a deeper level. So, one question guided much of my work this semester, and that was how do we reconnect with ourselves when modern life pulls us into survival mode and disconnection? This question felt personal to me because after having my youngest son, I realized I had slipped back into a state of survival mode. Before my own spiritual awakening and exploration, I spent much of my life operating that way. I never expected to find myself back there again, and here I was, back in that space. So, throughout this course, I became interested in how ancestral traditions, nature connection, and intentional practices might help us reconnect with ourselves when we do feel disconnected from our bodies, our communities, and the natural world. So my chosen practice was creating a sit spot in my backyard hammock along with a small ancestral arch altar. And I'm actually sitting in this hammock now. I felt like that would be, it would feel right for the moment. The hammock felt especially meaningful to me because growing up, my grandparents had a hammock in their yard that my siblings, cousin, and I played on throughout our childhood. My uncle still lives there, and the hammock is still there today. And whenever I go over there, I'm able to kind of sit there and, be in that same spot. And it's just now going through this course, it feels even more important to spend time there when I do go over to my uncle's house. By returning to a hammock as my sit spot, I felt like I was reconnecting not only with nature, but also with memories, family, and my lineage. My practice included sitting quietly, observing nature, reflecting, and journaling afterward. So, this is a picture of my altar and my sit spot. At first, I thought the practice would be about connecting with ancestors, but um, what surprised me was how much it became about slowing down and simply paying attention. I noticed birds, wind, changing light, the rhythms of my own thoughts, how I could, flow through, I guess flow of my thoughts. Over time, the space started to feel less like somewhere I went and more like a relationship I was building. And now I feel like this is my space and this is, you know, a spot where I can come and be and feel and think and reconnect. So the practice reminded me that meaningful spiritual experiences don't always have to be dramatic and they don't always have to be something really big. Sometimes they can just happen through consistency and stillness and presence. So, one of the biggest lessons I took away from this experience is that nature feels different when we approach it as a relationship rather than an object. So, a quote from Water and Stone that stayed with me was the idea that all of nature participates in our remembering. And the more time I spent in my sit spot, the more I understood that statement. I began noticing how being outside helped me remember parts of myself that often get buried beneath responsibilities, whatever distractions I have, my kids, and just the busyness and the hustle and bustle of life. I also learned that healing is not always intellectual. Sometimes awareness emerges through the body, emotions, and our relationship with the world around us. So here is my personal reflection that things that I thought about through the course of this class was how my initiation came through experiences that really challenged my identity. So when I became a mother, when I became a divorcee, when I was having a baby again and becoming, a mother to a little baby again, those moments of survival mode and reconnecting and the big ones where I, tapped into something deeper. I know I talked about a few of them in my discussion posts this semester, but those there were big moments, there were also small ones. So, and there were some that I went through with intention, and there were some that I stumbled into, the ones like, you know, being divorced and um even getting married, like I chose to do it, but you don't realize uh the challenge that comes with those choices. And so um the last part of this, that transformation is often embodied rather than purely intellectual, is that it comes kind of whether we're asking for it or not sometimes, and we're kind of forced into that. And I think that that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Um, so now to take you guys through my water ritual, this was something that I chose to invite into my ritual, and I didn't do it every time I was in my sit spot. It was just kind of like as it happened. One of the experiences that I mentioned in one of my discussion posts was about a water experience where I had taken psychedelics and I chose to do a cold plunge in the lake. And this experience was so powerful and there was so much being released. And it was a completely embodied experience. And I think that the water was something that was really helpful in that moment. So I wanted to include water into my ritual, my sit spot ritual. And so I started doing it every once in a while. And so I want to invite everyone to participate in a simple water ceremony. So if you have a cup or a bowl of water nearby, please hold it or place your hand near it. You can also, if you would like to, you can touch the surface. Water is often associated with emotion, healing, transformation, and flow. So I want you to take a moment to reflect on these questions. What are you bringing into this space today? What would you like to release, carry forward, or remain open to as we complete this? I guess now we're completing the course. So as we move on to our next part of our journey, what would you like to release, carry forward, or remain open to? Take a few moments in silence to set your intention. And when you are ready, simply just touch the water, or you can swirl your hand in it. I have some water in a puddle nearby that I've been using. So I'm going to gently just place my hand. I'm, just getting comfortable and intimate, if you will, with the water. May we carry forward the lessons, relationships, and insights that have emerged during this journey. And as we finish, I want to thank everyone for sharing your stories and reflections and experiences throughout this course. One thing that this class has taught me is that initiation, healing, and transformation are not things that only happened, in the ancient days. They're still happening today. Sometimes they show up through nature, through family, challenges, motherhood, or simply just the willingness to slow down and pay attention. Thank you.